talking about Jahmyr Gibbs a little bit earlier because we heard a soundbite from Dan Campbell referencing him. Tell me a little bit of what you expect him to do tonight or how he could potentially be utilized.
Oh, he's going to be utilized all over that field because without Jamison Williams out there for the first 6 weeks, he is this team's electric home run threat. He's going to share the field with David Montgomery at times. He's going to line up out wide. He's going to motion into the slot. He's going to do just about everything that you can do with a running back / wide receiver like him. I mean, I really think just that's going to be someone that's just going to have a massive role right from the get. And I think Montgomery's going to have a massive role too. I mean, they're going to change from what they did last year. Swift and Williams didn't share the field too much. They're going to utilize Montgomery and Gibbs at the same time just because they really trust what they can give that offense. So I'm thinking a lot of involvement for the rookie to get his career started tonight.
So one of the strengths that we can kind of build on this, because obviously it is this Lions offense, but specifically along the offensive line, when you're facing a front that doesn't have Chris Jones, it's already an advantage. What do you predict in terms of this matchup? Lions offensive line versus a front without its best defensive player.
Yeah, I think Ben Johnson and Jared Goff are probably licking their lips at how much trust and comfort they're going to have in their play action looks tonight. I mean, they're going to try and pound that ball. They're going to try and pound that rock with Monty up the gut. I mean, seriously, I mean, this is that's a big loss for this game for the Chiefs, not having Chris Jones out there because, I mean, you get Jared Goff comfortable in the play action. Chris Jones is there to disrupt things. Going to stay on script. I mean, they're going to really look to pound that rock and play action football because there's going to be a whole lot of comfort in keeping Jared Goff on his feet and inside the pocket where they want him.
Ben, what's the single biggest improvement you see from this team from last year, whether it be offensive side or defensive side of the ball, and people can expect tonight?
Depth, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You know, not having Emmanuel Mosley tonight, that hurts for sure. But, I mean, Brian Branch was so good through camp, so good through the preseason that he actually pushed Tracy Walker, a team-voted captain. I think he's led the team in tackles 3 out of the last 5 years to the bench. Branch is going to start at the slot. That's a lot of depth. Gardner Johnson can move inside. You can get Tracy Walker in the safety look. So there's a lot of versatility in that defensive backfield. But, honestly, it's the room of edge rushers. Josh Pascal, last year's second-round pick, he's healthy again. He's looking like a stud. They got John Kaminsky back, Aiden Hutchinson at the top of that group. And then you get two veterans who just kind of got forgotten about last year, Charles Harris and Romeo Okwara. I mean, Harris has looked like the no-doubt starter on the other side of Hutchinson on that defensive line. And we haven't even mentioned James Houston, who had like 7.5 sacks in 8 weeks last year. I mean, there is just depth because I think you're going to see Kaminsky, Pascal, and Hutchinson kick inside just to get all those edge rushers on the field at times to try and, disrupt Mahomes as much as possible.
So building on that defensively, when you look at this, how realistic or what's the realistic leap we can expect from this defense from where they were last year?
Well, last year they were 31 or 32, and I honestly – I've been asked this question a lot the last week, and I honestly think they can get into the top 15. I don't think this is going to be a top 10 defense. I don't think this is going to be one of the elite defenses week in and week out, but I do think that they can go from that 32, that 31 range to the top half of the league. And that's a big first step for as much youth and as much new pieces they have on that defense. But it really feels like they've given Aaron Glenn all the pieces that he's ever wanted to play his scheme the exact way he wants to play it, to keep offensive coordinators on their toes as much as possible by interchanging pieces. But, yeah, I really think this group can jump into that fairly top half of the league mark, but that's a pretty big-time improvement from where they were last year.
When you look at this team in this division, I would assume yourself, along with a lot of other people in the state of Michigan, are confident that this team's going to be able to win the division. Is that where you come out when you look at what the pieces that have been assembled for the Lions this year?
Yeah, that was one of the exercises we did this week, and I got the Lions winning 11 games in the division. I think the one sneaky team, it's weird to call the Packers sneaky, but I think people in Michigan, I think people around the NFC North are sleeping on the Packers and their potential just game-breaking defense this year. So I really do think the Packers are the threat, but the Lions are no doubt favorites in my mind. Win or lose tonight, that's the best all-around team in the NFC North. I do think that it's a division crown or disappointment.
Ben Raven with us. So you can follow him on Twitter, Benjamin S. Raven, also MLive.com, where you can find the news, Detroit Lions beat writer. Okay, so Ben, if you look at it from that perspective, have you talked to them about that? Have they have they given voice to the fact that they are the favorites? Like in the betting community, they are the favorites to win that division. That is a different role for a team that has, had the past that the Detroit Lions have had.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, the head coach and GM, they both have said, yeah, we expect to win this division. We've got the pieces. The players there's a lot of outside talk about, what happens with this team? Do they stay hungry, or is the hype train getting too out of control? And I say no. And I haven't seen any red flags in that department because, they realize it. This team has not made the playoffs. They don't have anything to celebrate, so they're hungry. They think they have the pieces, the head coach and the GM. Calvin Johnson even coming out of the woodwork to say this team's winning the division this year, and they expect to win that division. So the internal expectations are high, but, they're not getting too far ahead of themselves because staying hungry is like number one goal of this young team.
Well, Counselor, you've made compelling arguments for why the Lions are going to win this division, but I've got a little bit of pushback, and I want you to address this one. They started the season last year 1-6, finished 8-2. Did the fact that they got off to such a slow start and then all of a sudden are in a situation where they have nothing to lose help catapult them that stretch, the finish down the stretch?
Oh, absolutely. I think there was just, when the pressure's off and you're down and out and nobody's paying attention to you and you're 1-6 and out of the race, yeah, the pressure comes off. But I do think a lot of that improvement came with the youth growing up, and the youth growing up in a hurry. And Jared Goff Jared Goff gets a lot of credit for last season, but Ben Johnson really just built this offense around Goff's strengths, his comforts. He's given Goff a voice at the table, so he has a say on the offense. I think that just has an enormous piece of the puzzle to it. But honestly, it was just the youth getting better. Aiden Hutchinson, James Houston, Kirby Joseph. They were starting a lot of rookies by the end of the season, so it's just like they're still like a year and a half ahead of schedule than where we thought they were when they hired Campbell and Holmes in 2021. So it's kind of I really give a lot of credit to that offensive line, Ben Johnson stabilizing, and Jared Goff being the most comfortable he's ever looked outside of that Super Bowl run, to be honest with you. But, yeah, a lot of defensive youth jumps forward propelled that.
Has Detroit come to terms with the thought that this is Ben Johnson's last year as their offensive coordinator? Because if everything goes as planned, he's probably getting a job, right?
It's kind of hard to expect that guy not having a job. Like, even if the Lions – disappoint, win 8 or 9 games, if that offense remains a top 10 unit, if Jared Goff continues to realize his career, I think everybody's come to grips with, if not this year, then next, because I think he's 36, 37 years old, and that guy's getting a job, and they know they're pretty lucky to even have him back this year. So that's fueling a lot of optimism, no doubt, around here. But yeah, I think everybody's real with that one, but there's a lot of internal pieces that have been for the ride, because the most interesting thing about Ben Johnson is that he actually started in Detroit with the Matt Patricia regime. So it's just kind of an interesting couple of layers there for sure, kind of worked his way up through the ranks. But, yeah, I think everybody kind of accepts that guy to be at the top of every team's wish list looking for a new coach next January or February.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.